All right, it is 5 p.m. Eastern, so I'm going to ask our five judges to turn their cameras on. And I'm just going to briefly introduce our five judges. Before I do, can I have our advocates on the screen just briefly? Okay. Bella, Barrett, I'm assuming your second chairs are there and everyone is ready to go, right?
Yes, we're ready to go.
Great. Barrett, you guys ready?
We're ready to go.
All right. So before we start, let me introduce our five judges. I'm going to start with Jess Lorenzo. Jess is a rising 3L at Drexel Klein. She is at Drexel Klein on a courtroom scholarship and a member of our trial team. Before Jess came to Drexel, she was, and I'm going to continue to say this until someone corrects me, the only competitor that I'm aware of to be named an all-national attorney at two separate schools, at Florida and then Cincinnati. Jess has competed in 4 law school competitions and has been in the finals of 3 of them, including winning the Amicus Cup National Mock Trial Competition 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas. Audrey Shepard is a 2L at the UCLA School of Law. In high school, Audrey won Gladiator, which is the high school version of Trial by Combat. In college, she was and is the youngest person to win Trial by Combat this tournament. And in law school, Audrey has already won 3 competitions, including Tournament of Champions, which is the most prestigious invitational on the law school mock trial circuit. Additionally, and maybe most relevant to the people watching the stream, this case was used for a tournament in the fall that Audrey competed at, where she was named Best Advocate of the tournament. And this summer, she's going to be working in a large firm. Peter Martin is a graduating 3L at the UCLA School of Law. He also won a regional trial competition, a national trial competition, and an individual Best Advocate Award as a competitor. And after he takes the bar, he's going to be working at a large firm in Los Angeles. Joe Dale is a graduating 3L at the UCLA School of Law. He also won a regional trial competition, a national trial competition, and an individual Best Advocate Award as a member of UCLA's trial team. And last but not least, our presiding judge, Anna Eldridge, is a lawyer and professor at Rhodes College, where she runs one of the most successful programs in AMTA history. As a competitor, Anna was an All-American. And as a coach, Anna has won the Reynolds Award for reaching the national final round twice. And as an educator, Anna has won AMTA's highest honor, which is the Neil Smith Award. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Judge Eldridge, who's presiding over this trial. Good luck, Barrett and Bella.
All right, let's get started. Are both sides ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. Plaintiff is here and ready.
As is the defense, Your Honor.
Okay, then we can begin with opening statements for the plaintiff.
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court. There was blood in the water. They let the kids swim. It's a hot summer day in First City, California. On the beach, some of the kids, they're looking for shells. Some of them, they're building sandcastles. And one kid, a 12-year-old boy named Paul, he's floating out in the ocean on his raft. But Paul has no idea what's just beneath those waves. It all happens quickly. Something pulls Paul under the water. He tries to fight back. He tries to swim away. He's screaming for help, but there's nothing that Paul could do. He's just a kid, and a kid can't fight a shark. The next time that shark pulls him under the water, he doesn't come back up. All that is left is his raft and his blood in the water. The story's a tragedy. And when tragedies happen, it is our job to make sure that they never happen again. And after hearing Paul's story, you hope that the city would have done everything possible to prevent another tragedy. You hope that nobody would have to go through losing a child the same way that Paul's parents did. That's not what happened. You're going to hear today that less than a week later, in the same town, on the same beach, Julia Cacciapoli had to watch as her 6-year-old daughter was killed by a shark and her blood bleeding out into those same waters. Dorothy is why we're here today. Because her death, it wasn't just a tragedy, it was preventable. Today, her mother is suing First City for having dangerous conditions on public property. Now, to prevail in our claim today, we just have to prove 4 things to you. First, that the waters were dangerous. 2, that Dorothy's injuries were caused by that danger. 3, that the injuries sustained were foreseeable from that danger. And last, that the city should have known about those dangers with enough time to have done something about it. Now, our job today is to prove all 4 of those elements to you by the preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not. And to show you how we're going to meet our burden, we're going to show you 3 things. First, what the defendant knew. Second, what they were told. And third, what they did. So first, let's talk about what they knew. Because you're going to learn that after the first child died, they knew that there was blood in the water. But we expect that in today's case, the defense is going to try and tell you that they couldn't have foreseen Dorothy's death because they caught a shark. But to show you why that's not going to add up, we're going to call an expert in marine biology to the stand today, and she's going to tell you exactly what she told the defendant. She's going to testify that she told the mayor of First City that there was 0 evidence to suggest that the shark that they caught was the one that killed the first child. And then she's going to tell you that even if it was, well, one shark, it can mean that there's even more in the water. You're going to hear that she told the mayor exactly that. And she told him the only way to be safe, close the beach. So that brings us to what the defendant did. Because you're going to hear that even though they were told to keep the beaches closed, the defendant reopened them anyway. They didn't stop tourists from coming in. They didn't warn anybody about the dangers when they found out there was blood in the water. All they did was let the kids swim. That's exactly why at the end of today's trial, I'm going to come before you again, and I'll ask that you find the defendant liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Opening for the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. Can you see and hear me all right?
Yes.
Your Honor, Miss Salathe, members of the jury, it looked like the shark had been caught. See, Miss Salathe just came before you and she told you a story. But it's a story that began halfway through. To truly understand the facts in this case, we need to take a step back. Throughout today's trial, you'll hear a lot about a small town called First City, California. Its local population is about 4,000 people. It's located right on the coast of sunny California. Today, you'll hear prior to 2022, in this entire city's history, there had not been a single incident of a shark attack. So after tragedy struck in June of 2022, the mayor shut down the beach immediately. You'll learn today that the only reason the beach was reopened is because just days later, fishermen returned to First City with a caught and dead tiger shark. Members of the jury, it looked like the shark had been caught. We're here today because of a tragedy. Both sides agree on it. It's a tragedy that a girl lost her life, a tragedy that a mother is without her daughter. But it's a tragedy not caused by the actions of this city, but by the unforeseeable actions of nature. Members of the jury, it's natural to look for something to blame when a tragedy happens, but throughout today's trial, pay attention to the evidence that the city acted reasonably. See, despite this evidence, the plaintiff has brought a claim that First City was responsible for this tragedy. And with it, they brought a burden to prove each and every element the plaintiff counsel just told you about by a preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not. But today, your verdict doesn't rest solely on the plaintiff's burden, because the defense has brought one of their own. See, we've elected to pursue something called an affirmative defense of an act of nature. And all that means is we take on a burden to prove two elements of our own to you here today by what's called a preponderance of the evidence. We must prove that it's more likely than not two things: that a great white shark attack was an unforeseeable act of nature, and that based on the knowledge the mayor had at the time, there was no reasonable action to prevent it. We'll meet those two elements here today by showing you two simple but crucial facts. First, that it was reasonable to reopen the beach because it looked like the shark had been caught. And second, that the mayor of First City took reasonable precautions anyway. So let's start with the shark. It looked like the shark had been caught. In today's trial, you'll learn that the attack that brought us to court here today, it wasn't the first. That when an attack struck First City for the first time in their history, the mayor jumped into action and only reopened the beach when a dead shark was retrieved and brought to the deck. Today, you'll hear from that mayor who will tell you when that dead shark was laid at their feet, the plaintiff's own expert, who you will hear from today, told him, yes, this is probably the killer. It's unlikely there's another shark out there. Members of the jury, you'll learn today that only after this opinion from the plaintiff's expert, only after this shark was captured, did the mayor reopen the beaches. But you'll also learn that when he did so, well, he took every reasonable precaution anyway. Today, you'll learn that despite there being no real evidence of another shark being out there, this mayor, he knew that he couldn't control nature. He wanted to make sure nothing like this ever happened again. So you'll hear that he authorized 12 additional police officers to work at the beach. You'll learn he hired 3 shark spotters whose only job was to look for sharks, and that he told the plaintiff's expert with 2 decades of experience that he had the authority to do whatever it took to make sure the beach was safe. We're here today because reasonable precautions can't predict unforeseeable actions of nature. At the end of today's trial, after you've heard that it looked like the shark had been caught, I'll come back before you and ask you to return the only verdict consistent with the facts and the law, to find First City not liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Plaintiff, would you like to call your first witness?
Yes, Your Honor, I apologize for that. Plaintiff calls Dr. Dana Schott to the stand. May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
Good afternoon. Could you please
Good
introduce?
afternoon.
Could you please
Hi,
introduce?
I'm Dr. Dana Schott. I'm sorry about the Zoom lag.
What do you do for a living?
I am an oceanographer.
What does it mean to be an oceanographer?
Well, as the name suggests, oceanographers study the ocean and everything in it. However, I specifically focus on sharks.
What kind of education did you receive to become an oceanographer?
I have a bachelor's, master's, and PhD, all in marine biology.
And how long have you been an oceanographer for?
For about 22 years.
Now, you said earlier that you specifically focus on sharks. What sort of experience do you have with sharks specifically?
Well, I've researched sharks for the past 20 years. I currently run the Shark Research Program at the Oceanographic Institute for the past decade. I've written 8 peer-reviewed articles and given dozens of presentations on topics like shark biology, shark migration pattern, shark feeding behavior, all the crowd pleasers.
So then I want to talk about how you got involved with today's case. When did you first learn about it?
Unfortunately, I was a witness to today's case. I was at the beach when a shark attacked a young girl. Dorothy, she was only 6.
Would you recognize a photo of that shark if I were to show it to you?
I would.
Your Honor, my co-counsel's now screen sharing Exhibit 8 constructively outside the view of the jury. Doctor, what are we looking at here?
This is that shark that killed Dorothy. I was there during the attack, and I was there when we caught it, too. This is a photo from that time.
Is it a fair and accurate copy?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, plaintiff moves Exhibit 8 into evidence.
Any objection?
Without objection, Your Honor.
Okay, without objection, it'll be admitted.
May we publish Exhibit 8 to the jury?
Yes.
Doctor, could you tell us if you know what kind of shark this is?
Of course, this is a great white shark. When you think about sharks, this is probably the one that comes to mind for most of you guys. It's about as friendly as it looks.
My co-counsel could take this down now. Doctor, you told us that you were a witness to the attack. Why were you there that day?
I was hired by the city as a consultant. At first, I was just there to investigate a separate death that occurred on June 25th and see if it was caused by a shark. But after I witnessed another shark attack on the beach on June 29th, the police chief asked that I stay in the city and advise on how they could stop shark attacks.
Now, without stating what that opinion may be, during the course of your investigation, were you able to arrive to any conclusions regarding the shark attacks at First City?
I was.
Did you have sufficient facts and data to support those conclusions?
I did.
Were those opinions based on reliable principles and methods that are standard in your field?
Yes, ma'am, they were.
Did you reliably apply the facts and data to today's case?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this point, we move to tender Dr. Schott as an expert in shark biology and shark behavior.
Okay, is there any objection to that from the defense?
No objection, Your Honor. We believe Dr. Schott is absolutely qualified.
Okay, with that, she will be treated as an expert. Go ahead.
Doctor, I want to back up a bit. You mentioned that you witnessed you mentioned that there was a death on June 25th. Were you able to conclude what caused that death?
At the time, I wasn't able to conclusively say that that death was caused by a shark attack. I ruled that death as caused undetermined.
Now, you told us that you witnessed a shark attack later on June 29th. Did that person survive?
No. That second attack, a young boy, his name was Paul Parisi. He was 12 years old. He was killed in the attack.
You told us you were a witness to it. Could you tell us what you saw?
Sure. It was at the beach. He was out on a raft in the water. He was sort of kicking his arms and legs. This is common in shark attacks. Sometimes sharks can mistake that movement mixed with that raft as their natural prey, like seals or otters. I saw something pull him underwater. Then I saw a shark's fins, and he never came back up. All that was left was his raft and his blood in the water.
Do you know if the city implemented any safety measures at the beach after this accident?
I do. I consulted with the city, so I know that after my direction, they closed the beach for the rest of the day, but they only kept it closed for 2 more days after that. That's when someone claimed they found the shark that killed Paul Parisi.
You said someone found a shark that they claimed killed Paul Parisi. Would you recognize a picture of that shark if I were to show it to you?
I would.
Your Honor, my co-counsel's now screen sharing Exhibit 6 constructively outside the eyes of the jury.
That's fine.
Ma'am, when was this picture taken?
This was taken July 1st, 2022. That's the day they caught it.
Is this photo a fair and accurate copy?
Yes.
Has it been changed or altered in any way since you last saw it?
No, ma'am.
Plaintiff moves Exhibit 6 into evidence.
Any objection from defense?
Without objection, Your Honor.
Okay, without objection, it'll be admitted.
Your Honor, may we publish to the jury?
Yes, you may.
Ma'am, were you here during opening statement?
I was.
Were you here when the defense counsel said that at this point it looked like the shark was caught?
Yes.
Ma'am, based on what you knew that day, did it look like the shark was caught?
I thought that it was unlikely that this was the shark that attacked Paul Parisi.
Why is that?
Well, if you look closely, this is a tiger shark. Tiger sharks, they're not native to this area. It would be very unusual for a tiger shark to show up in the waters around First City.
Did you tell the mayor about that opinion?
Of course. I told the mayor about my opinion. I showed him the statistics around tiger shark fatalities. And I told him I thought it was unlikely that this tiger shark was behind recent attacks.
Your Honor, my co-counsel's now screen sharing a demonstrative aid. Ma'am,
Okay,
did this?
I'm assuming defense has seen this.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay,
Yes, Your Honor.
that's fine. Okay.
Ma'am, does this accurately reflect your testimony?
Yes.
Did you tell the mayor any of your other opinions in today's case?
Yes, I told them that the shark that killed Paul Parisi was probably still out there.
Ma'am, does this accurately reflect your testimony?
Yes.
Now, where did you have this conversation where you told him that the shark that killed Paul Parisi could still be out there?
This was on the dock after they caught the shark.
And did the mayor close the beaches after you told him you thought the shark could still be in the water?
No, he didn't. He reopened them the next day.
And did you tell him he needed to close the beaches?
Yes, I told him that he needed to kill the actual shark that killed Paul, or that he should close the beaches until the food source is cut off. I told him a shark won't leave a place where there's food. They're attracted to the movement that occurs when humans swim. It's a perfect storm for a beach city.
Ma'am, is it possible that the shark that was killed was the one that killed Paul Parisi?
It's not likely, but sure, it's possible. But I told the mayor that even if this was the shark that killed him, one shark could mean other sharks are in the area. If other sharks in the area, attacks could still happen. That's why I urged him to keep the beaches closed.
Does this accurately reflect your testimony?
Yes.
Ma'am, when did you tell the defendant that they needed to close the beach?
The last time I told him this was on July 3rd, 2022.
Ma'am, you told us that you witnessed the first shark attack. When did that shark attack happen?
That was on July 4th, the very next day.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Okay, cross-examination by the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Doctor. I just want to start by clarifying the timeline of the things you mentioned on direct examination. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So, Doctor, to be clear, you witnessed a shark attack happen on June 29th, right?
Yes, sir.
Based on your knowledge, this was the first confirmed shark attack in this city's history, right?
I'm not sure.
Well, ma'am, as a consultant and shark expert, this was the first shark attack in this city you were ever made aware of, right?
This was the first shark attack I was ever brought on to consult with. Sir, I'm not sure if it was the first in the city's entire history.
Doctor, were you made aware of any additional incidents before this?
Not specifically, no.
All right, and doctor, after this confirmed shark attack, you'd agree that the mayor closed the beach, right?
Yes, sir.
You'd agree they closed the beach until a tiger shark was brought to the shores of First City dead, right?
That's right. They closed the beaches for about 3 days after Paul died, and they opened them again once a tiger shark was brought there, against my warnings.
Doctor, this was an 11-foot, 1,100-pound tiger shark, right?
That's right, sir. However, the size of the shark has no bearing on whether or not it's more or less likely to attack humans.
Doctor, just to be clear, you also told the mayor that this shark was a man-eater, right?
Sure, that doesn't mean that it ate Paul Parisi.
You told the mayor that it was entirely possible that this shark was the one who did eat Paul Parisi, didn't you?
I told him that it was unlikely, but yes, that it was possible.
And doctor, only after this shark was killed did the mayor reopen the beach of First City, right?
That's right. After it was killed, and I told him that it was unlikely the shark that killed Paul Parisi, he opened those beaches.
Doctor, was that a yes?
Yes, sir.
And now I want to discuss more of your actions after this tiger shark was caught and captured. Doctor, you'd agree with me the very next day you went out searching for evidence of another shark, right?
That's right. I thought that if there was another shark out there, it would be good to find it before it could hurt someone else.
And you believed you found some evidence, right?
It's possible.
Evidence that you showed to the mayor when you asked him to close the beach.
That's right. I warned the mayor again that it was possible another shark was out there and that he should close the beach.
Well, I'd like to discuss exactly what you brought to the mayor when you asked him to close the beach. Because while you were out on that expedition, well, you came across an abandoned boat, right?
That's true.
You believe this abandoned boat, well, it could be a sign of a shark attack, right?
That's right. There's no confirmation as to when or how this boat received the damage that it did, but that damage was indicative of a shark attack, and I believe that it could indicate that there were more sharks in the area.
Well, let's take a look at it, Doctor. You'd recognize pictures taken of that boat if I were to show it to you, right?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time, we'll be constructively sharing not yet entered Exhibit 7 outside of the purview of the members of the jury.
Okay.
Doctor, these pictures were taken of that abandoned boat you found, right?
That's right. You can see that there's damage here that's indicative of a shark attack.
Oh, Doctor, these are fair and accurate copies.
Yes, sir.
Haven't been at all changed or altered.
No, sir.
Defense moves to admit Exhibit 7 into evidence.
No objections to Exhibit 7.
Without objection, they'll be admitted.
Yes, sir. Doctor, you'd agree with me that these were the only two pictures you brought to the mayor when you asked him to close the beach, right?
That's right. I brought these pictures to the mayor.
And you'd agree with me that, like you just said, you can't say that that hole was even caused by a shark, right?
No, this was just a part of the reason I was suspicious of more sharks in the area.
Well, Doctor, in fact, you have no idea how long this boat was there.
That's right. Like I mentioned, because I wasn't sure for the totality of time that this boat was in the area, which shark attacked it, I couldn't say for certain when these attacks were made, only that it could indicate another shark attack and that the mayor should act with an abundance of caution.
Well, hold on there, Doctor, because you'd agree you still can't confirm that this damage was at all caused by a shark, right?
No, sir. I can confirm that there was a great white shark in the area at the time, though.
So when you approached the mayor, the only hard evidence you brought him were these two blurry pictures that couldn't confirm a shark attack, right?
No, sir.
What other physical evidence did you bring to the mayor, Doctor?
I brought no physical evidence. In terms of hard evidence, those statistics about how likely a tiger shark is to attack a human, or those bite marks on the first possible victim that didn't line up with the marks of a great white shark, those are all evidence that that tiger shark wasn't the one that killed Paul Parisi, and that shark could still be out there. That's what I told the
Doctor,
mayor.
bringing you back to my question. The only physical evidence you brought with you were these two pictures that couldn't confirm a single shark attack, right?
In terms of physical evidence, yes, but not in terms of evidence.
All right, Doctor, well, let's talk about the mayor's response. Because you'd agree with me that the mayor, well, they took additional precautions when they reopened that beach, right?
Could you be more specific?
Well, the mayor authorized you as an expert to do whatever it takes to make sure the beach was safe, right?
No, sir.
Apologies, doctor. Short of closing the beach, you were authorized to do whatever it takes to make sure the beach was safe, right?
No, sir.
Is that your sworn testimony here today?
The police chief was authorized to take extra precautions. I wasn't.
Is that your sworn testimony here today?
Yes, sir.
Doctor, you watched as the mayor hired additional shark spotters, right?
I watched, yes. I wasn't authorized to take any steps to make the city more safe.
Doctor, you watched as the mayor assigned additional police officers to patrol that beach.
That's true. Unfortunately, sharks aren't known for being very responsive to law enforcement.
Doctor, you patrolled the water on your boat, right?
That's right.
The chief of police was working on the beach with all of the officers.
Yes, sir, there were police officers on the beach, but there was nothing preventative in place to stop those shark attacks.
Ma'am, to be clear, all of you were in constant communication, right?
That's true.
This was all with the goal of preventing another shark attack, wasn't it?
I'm sure that was the mayor's goal. However, I can't say whether or not it would achieve that.
Thank you, Doctor. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, is there any redirects?
There is no redirect, Your Honor. May the doctor be excused?
Yes, the doctor is excused. Thank you. Does the defense have a witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Chris Weems to the stand. May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
Good afternoon. Please introduce yourself, spelling your last name for the record.
My name is Chris Weems. Weems is spelled W-E-E-M-S.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Weems?
I'm the mayor of First City.
Could you tell the members of the jury about First City?
Absolutely. We're a small, family-friendly beach town in Southern California. We've got about 4,000 residents, and well, our beaches attract, tourists from all over, every summer.
Sir, I want to focus on your experience as mayor leading up to the incident on July 4th. Let's start with June 25th. Could you tell the members of the jury about that day?
I can. That morning, I received a call from our chief of police, and he alerted me that a young woman's body had washed up on shore.
Were you ever made aware of what that young woman's cause of death was?
It's unclear. The investigation and the results were detailed in a police report that the chief filed a couple days after she was found.
Would you recognize that police report if I were to show it to you?
I would.
Let the record reflect my co-counsel will be screen sharing pre-admitted Exhibit 4. All right, so what are we looking at here?
This is that police report that was filed by the chief of police just a couple days after this woman was found.
And the writing's a little small there. Could you tell the jury what the listed cause of death was on this police report?
Well, it says right here that the nature of the incident was undetermined, but our medical examiner believed that it was a possible boating accident.
All right, sir. So did you close the beach after this incident on July 25th?
No, at the time there was no reason to. If you see right there, the accident was consistent with a boating accident, likely caused by a broke propeller. Now, we had our initial suspicions about sharks, and to make sure, we called in an expert. But the shark expert couldn't determine if it was a shark bite, so there was no reason to close the beach with the information that we had.
You can take that down. Sir, are you familiar with the incident that took place on June 29th?
I am.
Could you tell the jury what happened that day?
There was a shark attack in the First City waters. A 12-year-old boy was attacked and killed.
Sir, was this the first confirmed shark attack?
This was the first confirmed shark attack in First City's entire history.
Sir, what did you do after the first confirmed shark attack in city history happened?
I did the only thing that a reasonable person would do, and I shut the beaches down immediately.
For how long did you close the beach, sir?
The beach was closed from June 29th through July 1st.
Well, hold on, sir. If you had just experienced the first confirmed shark attack in all of city history, why on earth would you reopen the beach after just 3 days?
Well, on July 1st, an 11-foot, 1,100-pound tiger shark was caught. And with this shark caught, I believed it was safe to reopen the beach.
Sir, have you been present throughout today's trial?
Absolutely, I have.
Have you heard the testimony of Dr. Schott, the plaintiff's expert?
Yes, sir.
Were they present when this tiger shark was brought back to First City?
Yeah, they were right there on the dock with me.
And what did they tell you?
The shark expert told me that the shark that was caught was probably the one that had killed those people.
Sir, did you have any reason to believe there was another shark out there?
No. After the tiger shark was caught, the expert told me that it was unlikely that there would be another shark in the water.
At any point after the plaintiff's expert told you it was unlikely there was another shark in the water, did they decide there was another shark?
Yes. She told me later that she thought that there might be another shark in the water.
Did she bring you evidence there was another shark?
She brought me 2 pictures of a boat, and one of them was just a hole in the boat. That was
Would
it.
you recognize those pictures you were shown if I were to show them to you?
Absolutely.
Your Honor, will now be screen sharing already entered exhibit set. All right, so what are we looking at here?
This is a picture of the boat that she showed me. And then the hole that she said was in it.
When she brought you these pictures, did the doctor say what caused that damage?
No.
Did the doctor tell you this was definitely a shark attack?
No.
Did the doctor tell you when this attack supposedly happened?
Nope.
Did they bring you any other pictures?
None.
Thank you. You can stop screen sharing. So did they bring you anything else when they asked you to close down this beach?
No. They showed me some statistics about sharks and how unlikely it is to have a shark attack in the first place. And other than these pictures, that was about it.
So did you believe there was a great white shark in these waters?
No. There was no proof, no pictures of a shark. No one had reported a great white shark. And all I had at the time were these 2 pictures of a boat from an undisclosed location at an undisclosed age with the hole in it. That's all I had.
So did you again close the beach back down?
No. The first time we had a shark in our city's entire history, we caught a 1,100-pound shark. The expert told me it was probably the killer, and knowing the killer shark was dead and gone, based on everything that I knew at the time, I believed it was safe to keep the beaches open.
Sir, after the tiger shark was captured and you reopened the beach, did you take any additional precautions to prevent another attack?
Of course. With the help of our expert, we hired 3 trained shark spotters, had a dozen more police officers patrolling the beach. Our shark expert was patrolling the waters on the lookout, and everyone was in constant communication.
Sir, did you give that expert authority to do what needed to be done to keep the beach safe?
Yes, absolutely. I told her to do anything it took to keep the beaches safe, as long as we kept it open.
Sir, I have to ask the question on everyone's mind. If you didn't believe there was a shark out there, why take all these precautions?
The ocean is a big and scary place, and it can be dangerous. But it can also be a place where families make memories. But I can't control nature. So we took extra precautions. I wanted to make sure that if a shark unexpectedly swam into our waters again, we could keep people safe. But it wasn't enough.
Sir, if you knew there was a shark in that water, would you have kept the beach open?
No. If I knew there was another shark in that water, I never would have let anyone go into the water.
Thank you for your time, sir. Nothing further this time, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Is there a cross-examination from the plaintiff?
There is, Your Honor.
Okay, you can begin whenever you're ready. Yes.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
You'd agree with me that part of your job is to keep your citizens safe, right?
Absolutely. And that's why we took every precaution after that first shark attack.
Well, we'll get to that in a moment, but I want to ask about what your responsibilities are. And your responsibility is to close the beach if the water is unsafe, right?
Absolutely. As long as there's proof that it is unsafe.
Mayor, you have the power to decide when you can close the beach, right?
To an extent, I have a unilateral ability to close the beach, but the city council can also choose to close the beach.
So that's a yes to my question. You have the power to decide when you can close the beach.
Absolutely.
Now, in the summer of 2022, you'd agree with me that 3 people died at your city's beach, right?
That's right.
They died while you were the mayor.
That's right.
They died when you left the beach open, right?
That's right.
Well, I want to start off by talking about what you knew about their deaths. Because on June 29th of 2022, you know that a 12-year-old boy named Paul Parisi died at the beach, right?
I do know that. Paul was in the same class as my little girl, Karina.
He was attacked by a shark.
He was.
You saw the aftermath?
I did. It was horrific.
Exactly, sir. You saw Paul's blood in those waters, didn't you?
I did.
Now, you told us on direct examination, you thought you caught the shark that killed Paul Parisi, right?
Absolutely. With the shark expert's advice saying that this was probably the shark that had killed him, I trusted her.
Well, I want to talk through exactly what happened that day because on July 1st, some people showed up on the dock with a shark, right?
That's right.
This was 24 hours after Paul's mother put an ad online offering money for the shark that killed her son, right?
That's right. She put out a bounty and they had found the shark that killed her son.
We'll get to that in a moment. But when these people showed up with a shark, well, because they showed up with one, you asked them where they caught the shark, right?
No, I had showed up and they had already caught the shark and they were taking a photo.
Wait, hold on. Are you telling us you didn't ask the people where they caught the shark?
No, they caught the shark that killed Paul Parisi.
Hold on. We'll get to whether or not that's true in a moment. But my question to you is whether or not you asked those people where they caught the shark. And you're telling us you didn't?
No, I didn't think it was necessary.
All right. Well, let's talk about what the expert told you. Now, you've been here throughout today's trial, haven't you?
That's right.
You heard that expert testify, right?
I did.
You heard her testify about conversations she had with you, right?
That's right.
Your Honor, my co-counsel is now screen sharing that same demonstrative as earlier. Sir, could my co-counsel go to the one prior? Sir, you'd agree with me that this is the demonstrative you saw on the screen during the expert's testimony, right?
That's right.
Sir, you claim that you told You claim that the expert told you that the tiger shark's probably what killed Parisi, right?
Yes, she said that shark is probably what killed Parisi.
You claim that she told you it was unlikely that there could still be a shark out there, right?
Yes, that's exactly what she said to me.
You claim that she never told you that one shark could mean more sharks, right?
I don't remember.
Well, on direct examination, you told us you had no evidence that the tiger shark wasn't the killer, right?
That's right.
Now, on direct examination, you told us that the same expert brought you some statistics, right?
Yes, she brought me a statistics page for the entire state of California. You know, all 848 miles.
Sir, were you able to finish?
Oh, absolutely.
And you'd agree with me that according to those statistics, it said that all fatalities involved great white sharks, didn't it?
Yes, it said all fatalities, but it didn't specify any injuries.
Well, the shark that killed Paul Parisi, it didn't just injure him, it killed him, right?
That's right. It must have been the first instance of a tiger shark killing someone.
All right, doctor. All right, Mayor. So I want to talk about what you and I can both agree on, because you and I can both agree that on July 3rd, the expert told you to close the beach, right?
Yes, the expert said to close the beach.
So let's talk about what you did after that conversation, because you didn't listen to her, did you?
No, I thought that we had killed the shark, and I didn't think that there was any more sharks based on what she had told me previously. So
Hold
I
on.
trusted her initial opinion and kept the beach open.
Hold on, sir. Even though the expert told you that you gotta close the beach, you kept it open, right?
Yes, because we had caught the shark.
Sir, I didn't ask you why. I asked about what you did. Even though the expert you hired told you to close the beach, you kept them open. True?
That's right. They weren't working as an expert for us at that time, though.
You'd recognize a photo of Dorothy Cacciapoli if I were to show it to you?
I would.
Your Honor, my co-counsel's now screen sharing Exhibit 1 outside the eyes of the jury. Sir, this is a photo of Dorothy on July 4th, right?
It is.
It was taken one day after the expert told you to close the beach.
That's right.
It's a fair and accurate copy of that photo.
It is.
Hasn't been changed or altered in any way since you last saw it.
No, ma'am, it's just in a presentation.
Plaintiff moves Exhibit 1 into evidence and asks that we can publish the jury.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. Under Rule 403, may I be heard?
Yes.
Specifically to substantially more prejudicial than probative. Showing the members of the jury a picture of the victim, a 6-year-old girl, prior to the incident, adds no probative value, makes no fact more or less likely. It's only being used to inflame the passions of the members of the jury, and as such, it's inadmissible.
May I respond on those grounds?
Yes.
Your Honor, there was a pretrial order where we agreed to exclude a photo of what Dorothy Cacciapoli looked like after the attack. And we agreed that a photo of what she looked like after the attack would substantially prejudice the jury. But in this case, showing a photo of what she looks like does not substantially outweigh the probative value.
Response, Your Honor?
Yes.
Now, today's matter isn't a traditional case. We're talking about a 6-year-old child. Showing a picture of a 6-year-old child prior to this incident, it adds no probative value. It's not changing any fact in today's case, and it's only being used to inflame the passions of the members of the jury because the victim is a child.
Counsel, can you explain what you think the probative value is?
Your Honor, the probative value here is just to establish that the mayor was there and saw what Dorothy Cacciapoli looked like on that day. Your Honor, again, this doesn't meet the threshold of it being excluded under 403, because in order for it to be excluded, it must substantially outweigh the probative value, and it doesn't meet that.
I think your arguments are well taken on both sides, but I'm going to sustain the objection. It'll
Yes,
be
Your Honor.
excluded.
Sir, you saw what Dorothy Cacciapoli looked like on that day, didn't you?
I did. Yes.
Dorothy Cacciapoli died the day after the expert told you to close the beach, didn't she?
That's right.
Sir, she was attacked by a shark on that beach, wasn't she?
That's right.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Okay, is there a redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor. I just asked Mr. Williams be excused.
Okay, the witness is excused, but I'm assuming is remaining here as the defendant. I think we move directly into closing arguments if both sides are ready.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Plaintiff, you can begin whenever you're ready, and you can use whatever screen sharing or anything like that that you might need for your closing.
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court? There was blood in the water, but they let the kids swim. Today, we've heard a lot about sharks. Great white sharks, tiger sharks, shark feeding behavior, shark attack protocol, but I want to take a second to remind ourselves why we're all here today. We're here today because of Dorothy Cacciapoli. She was 6 years old. She was on vacation with her mom. Now, had the city just closed the beach, the worst thing that could have happened to her on that day was that she wouldn't have been able to go swimming on the 4th of July. But you heard that she did go swimming that day. Because they let the kids swim, Dorothy's mother had to watch as her daughter took her last breath. Now, maybe, if this was the first time that this happened in First City, that we could just chalk it up as a tragic accident. Because we're not saying that the city is responsible anytime there's an act of nature. But the thing is, members of the jury, it wasn't the first time. It wasn't even the first time that week. And when you know that there's a man-eating shark doing laps around the shore, eating kids with their blood spilling into the water, and you don't close the beach, that's a dangerous condition. As the plaintiff, when we brought this case to court today, we walked in with a burden. We had to prove our case by the preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not. We did our job today by walking you through what they knew, what they were told, and what they did. So first, let's talk about what they knew, because they knew the waters were dangerous. Here's the thing, it is undisputed that there was a shark in the water the day that Dorothy died. And it is undisputed that another child was attacked by a shark in the same town, in the same week, at the same beach. I know that. You know that, and the defendant knew that too. So members of the jury, when you go back in that jury room to deliberate, and you're asked on that verdict form whether we prove that First City should have known about the dangerous conditions with enough time to actually do something about it, you can check yes. Yes, we did. So now let's talk about what they were told. Now, throughout today, you've heard two pretty different stories about what the city was told. Can my co-counsel pull up the demonstrative again? Now, Dr. Schott, she said that it's unlikely that the tiger shark was behind the recent attacks. The mayor said the exact opposite. Dr. Schott, she told you the shark that killed Paul Parisi could still be out there. Again, the mayor said the exact opposite, that Dr. Schott never told him that. Dr. Schott told you sharks can attract more sharks to an area, and the mayor said, I don't remember her ever telling me that. Thank you, co-counsel. You could take that down. Members of the jury, at some point, you've got to ask yourself, who is telling the truth? Who is more credible here? Is it the marine biologist who has no reason to lie to you? Or the mayor that mayor whose city is getting sued? So members of the jury, let's talk about exactly what the mayor was told. Because the mayor was told that it was super unlikely that the tiger shark was the one that killed Paul. You know why? The mayor told you today, I was shown statistics that said in the state of California, all fatalities of sharks, well, they were caused by great white sharks, not a tiger shark. And he told you, instead of listening to the expert, he said, well, I guess it was the very first time that a tiger shark killed a person. And here's the thing, members of the jury, even if you believe that they caught the shark that killed Paul, the expert told the mayor, one shark often means more sharks, and we don't have to guess if she was right. Because everybody knows that there was another shark in the water. Members of the jury, this one, because less than a week after a 12-year-old boy was killed, this shark, a great white shark weighing 1,700 pounds, bit off a 6-year-old's torso. Now, I expect in a moment, Mr. Teff's going to get up here and he's going to tell you, we couldn't have seen this coming. This was an act of nature and there was nothing that we could have done. But the problem, members of the jury, is that today they couldn't just tell you that because they had to prove it to you. And they weren't able to prove that to you because it's just not true. They told you we took enough action because we doubled the police presence. But members of the jury, what were the police gonna do? Arrest the shark? I mean, seriously, members of the jury, the police, they're standing on the shore. They're hoping maybe I can shoot the shark without hitting the 6-year-old next to it. He told you I hired 3 shark spotters to tell the people if they saw a shark. But what are those shark spotters really gonna do? I mean, think about it. If there is a shark in the water swimming towards kids, what use is it to say, get out of the water? You really think a 6-year-old can outswim a 15-foot great white shark? You know how they could have prevented that 6-year-old from dying on that day? By listening to the expert when she said the only thing you can do to prevent this is to close the beach. Because members of the jury, on July 3rd, the day before Dorothy died, the experts told the mayor, the shark is still out there. And you know what? Both sides can agree that the doctor told the mayor, you've got to close the beach. That leads us right to what they did because they ignored the own expert they hired. They kept the beaches open. They let children into the water. They let a shark kill a 6-year-old girl. So when you're asked on that verdict form if we proved that the dangerous conditions caused Dorothy's death, well, you can check yes. Yes, we did, because you're reasonable people. Members of the jury, you know that there was blood in the water, but they let the kids swim. So find them liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Defense, you can begin your closing whenever you're ready.
Yes, Your Honor. It looked like the shark had been caught. Members of the jury, something both sides in today's case agree on is that we're here because of an awful tragedy. It's a tragedy a girl lost her life. A tragedy a mother is without a daughter. But it's a tragedy not caused by the actions of this city, by the unforeseeable actions of nature. This case is filled with emotion, members of the jury. But as the judge will explain to you in just a few moments, it's your job as fact finders in today's case to separate that emotion from the evidence. The first thing you'll be handed when you step back in that deliberation room is the jury instructions for today's trial. And the very first instruction that you'll read is going to tell you you should determine the facts from the evidence, then apply it to the law, and that you should not consider sympathy in your deliberation. Members of the jury, as difficult as it is, I want to do just that right now. Take a step back from the emotion in this case and discuss only the facts and the evidence. Because what the facts and evidence show, members of the jury, is that the mayor acted with reason. Because it looked like the shark had been caught. When the plaintiff came forward and blamed the city for this tragedy, they took on a burden. A burden that you'll see with you in that deliberation. You'll have what's called a verdict form. And for the plaintiff's burden, it'll ask you two very simple questions. Did the plaintiff prove that First City knew or should have known of a dangerous condition with sufficient time prior to Dorothy Cacciapolli's death to take measures to protect against it? Now, although that question may seem complicated, but all this means, members of the jury, is did they prove that this defendant knew or should have known about the danger? And members of the jury, you heard that that is not what happened. You heard today that it was reasonable to reopen the beach because it looked like the shark had been caught. That for the first time in city history, when there was a confirmed shark attack, the mayor did close the beach. He stopped everything. He said nothing is more important than keeping the people safe. And the only time he acted is when a shark was hunted down, killed, brought to the deck, laid in front of him, and the plaintiff's own experts said, yes, that's the killer. This man-eating shark probably killed both of those people. And it's unlikely there's another shark out there. Members of the jury, they failed to show that First City knew or should have acted. Because members of the jury, we can't consider things with hindsight when it comes to the law. Everyone in this courtroom agrees the world would be a better place if the beach was closed that day. But take the seat of the mayor. Understand the facts he had available to him at that time. And this is a completely reasonable decision. But see, even if you believe that the plaintiff met their burden here today, that verdict form will ask you two more questions. They're both about our burden in today's case, the affirmative defense of an act of nature. And if you check yes on either of these boxes, we've met our burden here today. It'll ask you if we've proved that actions to protect against risk of injury were reasonable. Members of the jury, the answer to that question is our second simple fact. Because even though there was no real evidence of another shark, even though the expert told him it was unlikely, well, this mayor, he wanted to protect against another attack because he knew. Can't predict what's going to happen in nature, in the ocean. So he went into action. He told the expert and the chief of police they could authorize any safety measures they needed. He brought 12 additional police officers with guns to stop a shark. He hired 3 shark spotters to help the police find any shark that was in the water and help people get out. Members of the jury, he took every reasonable precaution because it looked like the shark had been caught. But he knew that you can't predict the unforeseeable actions of nature. Which is why when you're back in that deliberation and you have that special verdict form in front of you, it's imperative to remember that the information this mayor had at the time, that he believed the shark had been caught, he was told by an expert, this is the shark. The decision to open the beaches, it was reasonable. The decision to put all those extra people out there, it was reasonable. What you heard today in trial, it was a tragedy. And nothing either side can say will make it any better. But the truth is, the mayor looked at the evidence he was given. And what he was given were two blurry photos of a alleged shark attack that the expert couldn't tell you when it happened, how it happened, why it happened, and some statistics about how unlikely a shark attack was to happen in the first place. And this was her evidence that not one but two sharks were located in the same area. Members of the jury, that just doesn't make sense. The mayor acted with reason based on the information he had. This wasn't the actions of the city, it was the actions of nature. Members of the jury, do what's right. Find this city not liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Is there a rebuttal?
There is, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes.
Mr. Tefft just told you it looked like the shark had been caught. We didn't have any evidence to close the beaches. I guess the warnings weren't enough. I guess the statistics weren't enough. I guess the expert they hired wasn't enough. They needed a body of a 6-year-old girl to close the beaches. Find them liable. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we now complete our ballots before we do anything else.
Yeah, I will let you know when I have all 5 ballots, and then we will start with some brief comments. All right, I have all the ballots. I'll turn it over to our judges to give some very brief feedback, and then I will come on and announce our winner advancing to Philadelphia.
Do one of you all want to start?
I can go ahead and start. Y'all, great job. That was awesome. Really, really a pleasure to watch. Um, just give a couple things for the plaintiff. One, I think you're just very conversational and natural. I thought your opening was great. I think you're able to kind of have a lot of emotion without it seeming over the top, which is excellent. And then I think with respect to your theory, I thought anticipating that this is a he said, she said, and that the testimony between what the expert said and what the mayor said was going to be crucial to your case. And I thought having the demonstrative and bringing it back to that at the end of the trial and saying, why would the expert have a reason to lie? I thought that was really brilliant to anticipate it that way. And that really worked well for me. Defense, Barrett, you were so earnest and conversational. It's just great to watch. Like I naturally pull for you a lot. I think that that that's gonna be like your strong suit, just getting people to root for you. And I thought that that really shined in your direct examination. I thought that it was a great exam, but also you let the witness kind of take the attention, and I was really engaged with the witness, and that was because of how you were presenting it. So I thought that was excellent.
I can go next. So I know you guys are not trying this case anymore and you want to hear results, but for both of you, you were both obviously incredible. From the plaintiff side, you have a level of confidence and just like aura about you that I never want you to lose. Continue going forward, continue being that way. You're a powerhouse of a woman. Defense side, you are so natural, and that is going to take you so far, especially in the law school environment, like in front of real attorneys. Like they're going to love you if you continue to do this. For both of you, I was very impressed. Being the only competitor and it's you're doing every single thing is so difficult because you don't have a chance to review content. You don't have a chance to like sit down and breathe after each thing you're doing. So I'm highly impressed by both of you. Never felt like at any point you guys were off the rails. So kudos to you guys. And it was a tough decision, but I wish you guys both best of luck.
I can go next. Echoing everything that everyone's already said, you guys were both excellent. On the plaintiff, I thought you particularly excelled on the cross-examination. I thought you really controlled the witness. You really looked confident. You really knew the material. And, when you get to back the witness in a corner, that looks great. On the defense side, I thought your moment was the direct. I thought you were so conversational. I thought you did really great with the storytelling. I feel like I really understood the facts really well for maybe the first time in that moment. Really great on both sides, you guys. You were awesome.
I can go now. Sorry, it took me a second. My family just came home, so hopefully it's not loud in the background. But first of all, you guys were both fantastic. I mean, it really has been a pleasure to watch. I'll start with plaintiff. I think you're hearing a lot of the same comments from all of us because it's true. You have a phenomenal presence. And I think that finding ways to harness it and use it to your advantage of like moments where you can take the room's attention. I think that's a really big skill that you have. And then I would say on the defense side, I think that, again, you've heard it, like the conversation's fantastic. I think you also had really good organization and structure. That's what really struck me. I think that's why you're hearing a lot of feedback on your direct. I'd actually say with the closing as well. I think it made it as someone watching, like I said, I tried this case before, but it's still so hard to keep track of the timelines and the details. There's so many victims and things that were or weren't said. So you just did a really nice job of simplifying the story for all of us. And so I really appreciated that.
Okay. I'm going to echo everything everybody else has said. I thought you were both fantastic. And what I especially loved about both of your performances was the fact that you made it real. So you didn't just sort of take the pre-scripted arguments, but you actually like made some really real world kind of rational arguments, which I think always just makes it more fun, especially in the closings. You saw that come out a lot. For plaintiff, again, I think you've got a lot of grace. So you have power with grace, which I think is a really tough skill to manage, to be really dominant, but also do it in like a very likable, polished, pristine way. And I think you've mastered that skill. And for defense, I love a realistic, very like real world kind of vibe. And you have that in spades. So I thought you were both fantastic. Best of luck to whoever moves forward.
All right. I'm not going to belabor the point. Before I announce the winner, I want to just congratulate Bella and Barrett one more time. Not only were they 2 of the 8 selected for the play-in and 2 of the 22 selected for trial by combat period this year, but they also won their semifinal this morning, meaning they beat one of those other 22 or one of those other 8 competitors to get here. So this was a really great round. I feel like I say this every year, and I said it in the earlier final, but this set of finals was I think, our best yet. And so I'm really, really happy about that, and congratulations to both of you. This was a really close round. It was a split decision, and every single ballot was 3-2. So it was really, really close. The winner of the second of our 2 play-in finals and moving on to Philadelphia is Bella Salathe. Congratulations, Bella.
Thank you so
Great
much.
job.
You guys did amazing.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to
Good
both
job.
of you for
Really
making it.
amazing.
This is
And
amazing.
you, defense second chair, you are like my homie for life.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all for judging.